Welcome back to Fishing Unfiltered. This evening I'm going to be targeting cob on Paddletail. It's one of my favorite ways to actually target cob, and we wait for the winter season to come through with the sardines that come through, and as soon as the sardines start to die down, we start getting cob on Paddletail. This evening I'm going to be throwing mcarthy Paddletail, which is a 6-inch mcarthy Paddletail. I'm going to be trying with pink and white. Color is not that important, but my preferable colors that I like to throw is white, red mullet, pink, and then also I'll use like a pearl white, so something that's a little bit like shiny. So white that's a bit translucent, a bit shiny. I believe that with the light, especially the moonlight, or even if there's lights from the houses and stuff, it does shine a little bit in the in the water, so it does attract fish. So the main thing with the Paddletail is actually a very slow retrieve throw. Let your Paddletail sink and reel very slowly. Let the tail do the action. So the tail is going to vibrate the entire time, and you will get bites. So the tackle I've chosen to go for this evening is actually my bluefish 12-foot and my stradic 14K with 30-pound braid. Normally this setup would be considered as heavy, but to me it's actually perfect to target this fish because we do fish off rocky points, and sometimes you do have to pull the fish very hard and pick it over big ledges. So this I think would be the perfect outfit for them. The jighead that I'm going to be using today is a 1.5 ounce mad mullet jighead. I do vary from 1.5 ounce to 2 ounce. You get them in a ball jighead and also a bullet shaped jighead. Both have the applications. The ball one works really well when you're pulling it off shallow water, so it doesn't dig into the sand, and when you're on the rocks, so this will bounce off the rocks, versus the bullet jighead, which will actually keep the Paddletail really low. So when you're fishing deep water off deep points and in the surf where the water is really deep, it's good to fish with the bullet jighead. It will keep your Paddletail down. The color of the Paddletail is not too important. It's all about the vibration on the tail. Throw your Paddletail, let it sink, and the most important thing is give a really slow retrieve. Sometimes you barely be turning the reel, very slowly. You want the Paddletail to do all the work, and then the cob will just come and bump and swallow the Paddletail. If you do get a bump on the cob and it doesn't commit, just don't hit or strike or anything of that sort. Just continue your retrieve and the cob will come back the second, third time. If this doesn't work for some reason, stop your retrieve. As you're reeling and you get a bump and it doesn't come back to commit, stop, let your Paddletail sink again, and as soon as you start your retrieve again, you're most likely to get a cob. That's a few retrieves that we use. When you do target kingfish in the night though, you want a faster retrieve, so you want to jig the Paddletail, and you want the Paddletail to come in a different level of the water, so that's different. You do get springer, GTs, and yellowtail or blacktip kingis in the night, so that's with a different retrieve. But today I'm just going to be targeting cob. Cob tend to feed after the dead low water, so when you get your first push and the water starts to fill up, that's when you're going to get your cob. Cob don't like to feed in very high water. I've caught many in the high water as well, but the best time to actually target them, especially with Paddletail, is that first push. So if you got low tide at 10 o'clock for example, you want to start fishing from 11 going on, maybe for 2 hours after, or 1 hour after the low tide, and then you got like a 2-hour period where you'll get the fish. You do get them in the high tide as well, depending where you're fishing, but the best time is just after the low. Generally in the high water it's difficult for the cob to find the Paddletail, but with that being said, fishing is unpredictable. You never know what can happen. I've caught them in the high water, I've caught them in the low water. You just have to keep persisting. One of the most important things when spinning for cob, and I cannot stress this enough, is do not shine the light in the water. When you're fishing for cob, whether it's with bait, Paddletail, live bait, or whatever it may be, at night when you're fishing, do not shine the light in the water. What happens is when these cob moving, they move into a shoal. When they see the light, they tend to move off. I've experienced this on many occasions. If I go fish at Umkomaas pier and I see this happening where guys who are inexperienced are fishing on the pier and shining the light in and around the pier, the cob move off. I don't even bother going and fishing. It's not worth fishing because the cob tend to move off. I'm not saying you won't get a cob, but it chases the cob away. So when you're fishing, guys, remember, please try and minimize the amount of light you shine in the water. I understand when you're on with fish, yeah, you have to shine the light sometimes, the rocks and stuff, yeah, we don't mind. But when you're trying to get a bite, minimize the light you actually shine in the water. If you're walking on rocky points and you're going out to throw, face your headlight down. When you're throwing, put your headlight off. When you finish throw, put your headlight on, shine it down onto the floor and walk out. Don't shine the light in the water. As soon as you do that, the fish is going to move off. So I'm speaking of experience here, guys. The whole point with not shining the light in the water is you try and keep the environment as natural as possible. So if it was dark, leave it dark. The cob will swim in, feed on whatever they're feeding. You throw your Paddletail or your bait there, you get the bite. Now you put the light there, it's something that's shining in the water, it's gonna chase the fish away, you know. So try and minimize that. I want to demonstrate my retrieve quickly, how I cast, how let the Paddletail sink, and how I reel. Again, when I'm fishing normally I don't put the light on, just to record the content I've got the light on. So yeah, there's my 1.5 ounce jighead, 6-inch mcarthy Paddletail. So I wait, I let my pedal tail sink, and then you'll distinctly feel the knot on your rod where you hit the sand. Then you gently reel, and you give it a very, very slow retrieve. As you can see, that's how slow I'm actually winding the pedal tail. Very, very slow retrieve. You want your pedal tail to come just off the bottom. And it all depends on the depth of water you're fishing and the current. You can change from a 1.5 ounce to a 2 ounce ticket. But the main principle when fishing for carp is let the pedal tail come very, 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 very close to the bottom with a slow retrieve. Carp are very lazy fish. They don't want to chase a fast moving pedal tail or lure. They want to lure right to the bottom. But yeah, that's the general retrieve. So just throw, let it sink and wind very, very slow. As you can see, I'm winding really slow. I want my pedal tail just off the bottom. Carp don't feed far. Carp, you can get the carp right in the backward. Don't ever think that, you're throwing too near. The carp will bite maybe like 2-3 meters from the side, sometimes even on the sand. So again, throw it out, let your pedal tail sink, give it a very, very slow retrieve. The reason why I've actually got my rod upright instead of down is I want my line to be above the first 2 waves. If my line's in the actual first 2 waves, which is the small breakers on the side, the line's gonna pull a little bit, so I'm not gonna be able to feel what my pedal tail is actually doing. Very, very slow retrieve, yeah, slow retrieve. As long as your pedal tail is coming just off the bottom, you're in the right zone, and if the carp's there, you're going on. Trust me, the carp love the pedal tail. Pedal tail is really, really effective. It can actually be better than live bait and bait at certain times. So you know what, if the carp is there and the carp are feeding correctly, you're going to go on with the pedal tail all the time. And just keep persisting. If you're ever fishing for carp, keep persisting. If you're ever fishing for carp, especially with lure, keep persisting. Eventually you're going to get a fish. It's all about persistence. You may fish 5-6 nights, nothing, and then you're going to smash it. Watch the conditions, fish in certain conditions, don't fish in just any conditions. Fish when the sea is calm. The nipter is really good for carp. You don't want discolored water, you want clean water. So those are a few just basic pointers. But when you do start spinning for carp, and in the area you're spinning, you'll eventually learn the conditions that the carp like, because every area is different. Port Shepstone is different from Umkomaas, Tugela is different from Umkomaas. So there's a whole lot of different tips and tricks that you learn from your area. If you ever need any advice, the best thing is, ask your local guys what works. Certain colors work in certain areas, certain jiggheads. So yeah, ask the local guys and they'll definitely help you. I'm sure they'll help you. If you need advice from Umkomaas, welcome to ask us. We know how to spin in our Umkomaas with pedal tail, so we'll definitely help you guys. Cam's an expert on this. Unfortunately, he's at work, or he's got to work tomorrow, so he can't make it today, so I'm alone. But yeah, if you ever need advice for Umkomaas fishing, Cam and I, we know what's happening here. So with the pedal tail, if you need advice, ask us, we'll tell you guys what's happening. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to put the lights off. Again, as I said, light, you have to restrict the amount of light that you actually use. You don't want to shine the light in the water. And hopefully when I do hook up, I'm going to put the camera on, and then you guys are going to see how I land a good carp. Yeah. Thanks guys, enjoy. We're throwing paddle tail, and this is for very nice. Throwing a white mcarthy paddle tail. On. Very, very big head knot, guys. Looks like a big carp. another lovely caught on Paddletail. Got a white mcarthy Paddletail. You can see this may be a 12 kilo fish. Lovely fish on a 12 bluefish for stradic 14k and a 6-inch mcarthy Paddletail. I've been persisting many nights for this carp and finally I managed to get him. And it's a really special fish, especially here on the lure. And my 12 bluefish was stradic 14k with a 6-inch mcarthy Paddletail. You can see got him in the corner with a mad mullet chicken. German good quality chickens get mad mullet. Thanks guys.